Well, hello, everyone. I'm adjusting myself right now. It's one of those early mornings, you guys. All right. Well, let's get right into it. Welcome to a brand new episode of Hot Topics. Let me tell you what this show is about. This is an episode where we like to have that real talk, right? We like to talk about honest, open and honest conversations. We like to have those conversations, particularly in certain subjects, subjects like employment, like education. We've had episodes on divorce, uh, financial security. Whoa, okay, sorry. Sorry about my phone. Yeah, so we've done a lot of topics about ADHD and living with a disability. So we like to have those open and honest discussions around those areas. And today is no different. So let me tell you what this episode is about. I am excited about this episode. I know I'm excited about every episode, but I am excited about this episode. So, this episode, we are going to talk about college admissions, right? We're going to talk about the process, what you need to do to get in, what your child needs to do to get in. Um, we may even throw into a few surprises. So, I know it's July, it's December time, but, you know, there is always a time to be talking about college. So, if you have a youngster that's getting ready for college, or if you, an adult, are thinking about going back to college, this is the show for you. And I can't wait to have this discussion. So, I have a guest with me who's going to help me with this discussion. Her name is Christen Arafeh, and I am going to tell you about her. So, let me tell you about her. Who is Christen Arafeh? Let me tell you who she is. So, as a high school freshman, Kristen realized that in order to afford college tuition, she would need to apply for scholarships. She started applying at 14 and has been awarded over $900,000 in scholarships since then. She started a local college consulting company in New Orleans, which has grown into an international college advising agency where she has helped hundreds of students from all over the world collectively win over $1 million in scholarships and gain acceptance into universities of all shapes and sizes. Wowzers, you guys, wowzers. All right, so I am just going to bring her to the stage right now. Hi, Kristen, how you doing
Hello.
today?
Great. I am so happy to be here. Thanks for having me, Gabrielle.
Yeah, 900K in scholarships, huh?
Yeah, a little dedication and motivation goes a long way.
Oh, I wish I had you, back in high school. All right, all right, all right. All right, so let's get right into it. So we are going to talk about college admissions, the college process, what we need to know, the myths. We're gonna get it right into it. So I'm just gonna let you get started if that's okay. So I'm just gonna hand the floor over to you and go ahead and start.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. So, a little backstory is as a first generation college student, I was the first in my family to consider going to college. And so, I really didn't have a backbone to lean on to get information of when to start, how to start, what colleges to consider. So, I just knew that in order to go to college, I would have to find a way to afford it. And as a freshman, I remember at lunch one day, we had like some colleges come on campus during lunch, and I walked around and I saw the word scholarships. Like, this is back when like bulletin boards still had like taped letters and stuff. And I'm like, scholarships, that's the answer. And so with a little research, I was like, wow, I guess you don't have to be a senior to apply for scholarships, which not a lot of people realize that. So pro scholarship tip, don't wait until your senior year to start applying. But yeah, so I applied for, man, countless, hundreds of them probably. And it wasn't until I was a junior when I won my first scholarship. which was very exciting. It was definitely like, well, if I can win one, certainly I have what it takes to win more. So winning that very first one really motivated me to continue applying. And so I realized that there's different categories of scholarships. And so I applied for everything that I possibly could. What I didn't realize though, I didn't have a lot of mentorship throughout the college planning process. So that is I was a junior and I went to one of our local schools in New Orleans and I scheduled an appointment. I was 16 at the time, showed up by myself with a folder, couldn't even find like the registrar, financial aid, or any of those departments for admissions. And once I finally made it there, and she took a look at everything, and I like to like forefront the story to say I was not the smartest kid in my class. I was not the fastest kid in my class. I didn't do a lot of sports. But I was academic, I was involved in and off of campus, and I had a lot of community service, which really goes a long way. And so as I sat across from this admissions director's desk at a school that I really wasn't even sure if I would ever apply to, she said, well, if you are a senior this year applying, it looks like just going through my GPA and ACT scores that I would qualify for one of their largest scholarships. And she said, so that should open the doors for me at a lot of schools. And so I kind of took that and ran with it. And so when I started applying to schools, I'm a New Orleans native. And so I didn't desire to leave Louisiana. I knew I wanted to stay in state so I could capitalize on some of those in state grants and in state tuition. And as I applied, I won multiple full ride scholarships, quite a few partial tuition scholarships. On top of that, I got some big national scholarships, some very small local scholarships, and then a lot of random internet scholarships in between. And when they announced over $900,000 at graduation, I realized that, wow, like I said, a little bit of dedication and motivation really goes a long way.
Awesome, awesome. That is an amazing backstory. So let's start with the obvious question. Where can you find information on scholarships?
Yeah, so I don't like to rely on the basic scholarship websites. So some of the big name ones, FastWeb, CapEx, scholarship.com. I find that although they have large databases with a lot of scholarship opportunities, there's a lot of people that utilize those scholarships. And a lot of those scholarships are what I like to call sweepstakes scholarships. And so what that looks like is they ask for very little information. The scholarships are not very specific, not very personalized, and they get as many people as they possibly can to apply. And then they kind of like secretly select one. Winners usually aren't advertised. And so I try to stay away from those. And instead, there's different brackets of scholarships. So let's just say, for example, I was a woman, a female that wanted to major in radiology, which is biology. So I would qualify for STEM scholarships, women in STEM scholarships, radiology scholarships, women in radiology scholarships. Also, like location based is big. So all of the Louisiana STEM scholarships. Community service is a big one. Never forget to do community service. One of my pro scholarship tips is start with a resume. And whether you're 9th, 10th, 11th, I hope you have one before 12th grade, but if not, it's a great time to do it. And it's important to have like your education, like your academic background, all your honors classes, AP, dual enrollment. And then the next section would be extracurriculars and sports, whether in or out of school. The next section, awards and accomplishments. Another section is community service. And when you get a baseline resume, it really helps you realize what you're lacking in. And a lot of students are missing community service. Or they'll say, well, one time during Thanksgiving, we made brown bag lunches. But the truth is, the people who are giving scholarship money are philanthropists themselves. And so they like to give back to people who are giving back. And they want to see that you are active, that you are doing something you love, that you do it often. So sometimes often is an hour a day, or sometimes often for some people is an hour a week. An hour a week, or sometimes it's once a month, or sometimes it's quarterly, or sometimes it's one big project annually. So with community service, it's kind of as much as you're willing to give, but just think one day it's possible that you'll be in an interview, whether a job interview, admissions interview, or scholarship interview, and they're going to ask you about the community service that you have listed. So make sure it's something that you're passionate about and that you can talk about at length, and not just something that you did for 1 hour, one time.
So now, let's say you're a student that has never did anything, never joined any clubs, never did any community service, never even had a job. What's your recommendation for those students?
It is time to find something that you like to do and dedicate some time to it. So, admissions officer's job is to find a complete, like a well rounded student. They want to make sure that you'll show up, that you'll do well in your studies, that you'll be a team player in their organizations, and just like an overall well rounded good person. And if you, especially, I've seen where students are perfect academically on paper, but have little extra to talk about or to do. And then the truth is, you kind of fall flat with admissions in college admissions and scholarships, is they really like to see students who dedicate themselves in some way, shape, or form to a bigger cause.
So are you basically saying it's like as soon as you hit ninth grade, join a club, get a job, do something?
Yes, I'm basically saying do something. So, what do you do in your spare time? And I like to say it's not necessary, but it is helpful if you find a club, organization, volunteer opportunity, internship, part time job, preferably in a field that you would like to do in the future. So, for example, I'll go back to my story. I thought I wanted to do radiology. I wrote every college application essay on why the traits, the personality traits that I had that would make me great for this field. And as a freshman in college, I started volunteering in the radiology department at my local hospital, and I hated every moment of it. And so, in retrospect, I'm very glad for that time because it would have been so much worse had I completed my 4 year degree and potentially moved on to even more education and then stepped foot in radiology for the first time and been like, wow, this isn't what I expected. What did I do the last 4, 8, 12 years? So it's very important to spend some time, and it kind of works one of two ways. I could have gotten in the radiology department and absolutely loved it. Then I would have made connections with the people who work there, potentially like the supervisor. It would have been a great opportunity on my resume. It would have made for a great reference. It could have potentially opened doors for internships or jobs in the future. But it did the opposite, which I'm still grateful for. Where would I be today in a job that I didn't really like? And then I felt stuck because I mean, I'm grateful that I had scholarships, but the truth is most people don't. They pay a fortune or take out many student loans in order to get a job that they don't like. That sounds terrible. So spend some time in high school, in your summers, even if it's just a summer or even if it's just over Christmas break. Job shadowing can look many different ways. It could be one afternoon, it could be one weekend, it could be a few hours a day for a week, and you can let someone know, decide what field you're interested in, find some potential places, and just let them know, hey, I'm interested in doing this. Is there an afternoon that I can job shadow? And that looks great.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right. So now I had a question, but it my brain just
Fleeting.
froze. Okay. So now I think with, back in the day, I did fast web. Um, I did all those common scholarship sites. Unfortunately, I was one of those people that took out a student loan. Um, so I noticed today, I think with the explosion of social media, that you could just find information on scholarships on Facebook. So do you think that with social media, it's becoming easier for people to find scholarships?
I think social media is sort of a double-edged sword here. I feel like there's definitely opportunities you can find on social media. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I have my own Facebook group. It's Navigating US College Admissions Plus Scholarships. And I post scholarships daily and different scholarship tips, test taking hacks, admissions assistance, little things. But the truth is, social media, you're inundated with information, right? Like the information just doesn't stop coming. The more you scroll, the more you'll see. And so there's also like information overload. So yeah, those hashtags help. So I also like to say same thing with like the test taking, ACT test prep. I have students who are like, I can't afford test prep. Listen, there's people on Instagram Live or TikTok Live that do test prep for free for hours at a time. You just have to find them. You have to want to find the information that's out there in order for the algorithm to work in your favor and for you to continue seeing it. But I know I daily see ACT test prep live just over and over. And I mean, it's someone just working problems step by step that you can watch. So sometimes I like to say test prep is one of the biggest ROIs in college admissions. A lot of schools right now are going test optional or test blind, but the truth is the students who are submitting quality test scores are getting accepted first and are getting more scholarship money than those who are not. So it's worth it to get some test prep under your belt. It looks different for every student. So students should decide, just do they do better one-on-one, just using a practice test? Did they do better in a group setting? Did you do better one-on-one in person? Do you care if it's in person or virtual? However, or sometimes there's also online courses that will walk you through step by step. So it's best to decide, how do you learn best? What can you afford? And then run with it. But there's tons of free options as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So check out those free options, you guys. All right. So I just want to go back to where to find scholarships. So the common ones like FastWeb, I just want to reiterate. So you're saying to avoid those websites and to do like a random Google search?
Yes. And so how I find scholarships is I like to, if I'm helping a student do a personalized scholarship search, I have a questionnaire to fill out. And so that looks like, where do you live, right? So let's just say I'm in New Orleans. I'll find scholarships for Louisiana residents, scholarships for New Orleans residents, scholarships for Louisiana STEM majors, scholarship. And by using Google, I usually skip the first few options that come across, because those are usually ads. Those are also usually FastWeb. They have like great SEO, and all of those high ranking scholarship sites come up first. But then if you scroll a little further is where you get like some scholarship bliss. And there are sites kind of like mine that have like handwritten vetted blogs that we've kind of hand selected scholarships that meet certain criteria. And so you can also say scholarships with July deadlines. Scholarships for, I'll also say like your major. Man, finding scholarships for your major is one of like the most overlooked but rewarding ways to find scholarships. Scholarships for criminal justice majors, scholarships for computer science majors, scholarships for pre-med, scholarships for minorities in medicine. Whatever qualifiers you'll use to describe yourself, throw some of those adjectives in and find some blogs. And so usually if you find the kind of website that has like the blog with multiple listings, I will open up each scholarship's in an individual tab on my browser and then vet it and make sure, okay, yes, this one's active. It has an upcoming deadline. It looks legitimate. I also like one of my favorite things with scholarships is to see who's won them in the past. And I'm able to gauge how difficult it is based on who's won the last few years of scholarships, or what identifiers do they use? Is there a single, is it all, for example, I don't know, I kind of drew a blank trying to think of one in particular. But yeah, Google and just use identifying words, adjectives that you use to describe yourself to find scholarships. I mean, there's scholarships for tall people, scholarships for left-handed people, scholarships for students with disabilities, scholarships for students with disabled parents, scholarships for students with cancer. I mean, same thing, medical, scholarships for students with ADHD is another one I know you mentioned in your opening. So yeah, just whatever words you can use to identify yourself, LGBTQ, students of military dependents, there's scholarships, so many scholarship opportunities out there for you. The best bet is to find the ones that are legitimate, that don't have millions of people applying. And to do that, I say just Google. You sometimes you have to go through multiple pages to find them, but they definitely exist.
Awesome. So now The information about scholarships can also be as simple as, uh, looking into the college. What are they called? The college department at your school. They may have it on a bulletin board somewhere, or if your parents might be part of a union, and the union may offer scholarships as well. So it's small things like that. So now, and I know we're supposed to be talking about college admissions, but the scholarship just got away from us, but that's okay. Um, so now let's just start with another obvious question, just for information purposes. What is a scholarship?
Yeah, so a scholarship is funds from an organization, and they're typically sent directly to a university to cover the cost of tuition. And sometimes that could be the cost of tuition, the cost of tuition plus room and board. Sometimes it could also be books, whatever that looks like. So schools will have the majority of your scholarship money will typically come from the school you're applying to itself. And so that looks a little different. Some schools, especially like Ivy League schools, don't offer scholarships. You have to think that the type of student that they are accepting, they're pretty much accepting all perfect on paper students, right? All of your highly academic, highly gifted, a lot of extracurriculars. So there are no scholarships for Ivy Leagues in particular. But if you're considering schools outside of the Ivies, which is the majority of universities across the nation, they have scholarships. And so the first step I like to say is apply early. So early applications for most universities is November 1st, is average. And so I like to tell seniors, make sure they have all of their applications submitted before the November 1st deadlines for a bunch of reasons. Number one is you want to enjoy senior year. You don't want to have to, oh, that teacher didn't do a recommendation yet. Oh, I forgot to get the health clearance. Oh, I have to go back and get the counselor. It just kind of never ends. So if you give yourself a deadline in November, you have the rest of your senior year to be a senior. I mean, you still have tests and homework and all of that stuff, but there's also this fun senior activities that you really want to be able to focus on and not have so much focus on college applications. So that's reason number one. Number two is priority scholarship consideration. So when you apply for college, many colleges will consider you for scholarships with your original application. They don't need any other no supplemental information. Some schools will have a separate scholarship application, so be sure you take a look at that. But either way, usually the deadline is November 1st or sometimes December 1st. And so by getting that out of the way early, you're considered ahead of time. So there's students that want to go to school, that university, that haven't even applied, that will not have even applied yet, and you've already applied for scholarships. So it just kind of shows that you're a little more interested than the average student, and you're usually more inept to get scholarships that way.
All right, all right. So now, what are the ways that people apply for scholarships? What are the, what am I trying to ask? Like, what's the method of entry, for scholarships? In terms of, sorry, that someone may have to write an essay, for example, right? So, I'm sorry, there's a fly. What are the ways that people apply for scholarships? What's the method of application?
So every scholarship is truly different and requires something different. I've seen scholarships require as little as first name, last name, email address. Those are usually the ones that I advise you to stay away from. Or even if you apply for those, they shouldn't be all that you apply to. For the simple fact that I feel like they're fishing for your information just so they can usually have a monthly no essay scholarship winner, and then they sell off all of that information to third party student loan companies and colleges and test prep organizations. And so keep that in mind. But in addition to like your contact, your personal information, there are also scholarships require essays, transcripts, letters of recommendation, sometimes a resume. I've seen where they require like their application, so to speak, is actually a YouTube submission, a video based on what they requirements, usually a certain time, talk about something in particular. And so the truth is, students are usually like, I'm tired of writing essays. I've written enough. I don't want to write essays for scholarships. After doing some research, I do the personalized scholarship searches where I'll help curate a list of scholarships for students. And so in that, I provide a digital scholarship organizer that lists what is needed for this scholarship. So I'll say the scholarship, what is the deadline? How much is the scholarship worth? What is that award amount, that dollar amount? And then what needs to be submitted with the application? And yeah, about 80 to 85% of scholarships that I'm finding require an essay. And that's just the cold, hard truth. And so sometimes those essays can be recycled over and over and over again. Honestly, the majority of my scholarship money that I won, I used like 2 different essays, and I would kind of fill in the details based on what that specific organization looked like or who I was writing to, who my audience was. And it worked. So you don't have to start at a blank slate each time with an essay. I know that's usually like one of the anxiety factors when it comes to scholarships is, oh, I just don't want to write essays. But it's easier to write, revamp, reuse essays in high school to get this money than it is to work at a job and pay off student loans later. So write those essays.
All right. I think some scholarships have fees, application fees. What do you think of those?
Yes. I usually advise students to stay away from the scholarships that have application fees. Now, I do see where there's, for example, certain organizations, I'm not going to pinpoint out any in particular, but let's just say you're a med student or pre-med student, and this is like a medical student organization, and they require a $45 lifetime membership fee. And then they'll give $1,000 or a $10,000 scholarship annually. So you'd pay a $45 membership fee to become a member to this organization so that hopefully you can win scholarships in the future. I'm not opposed to those necessarily if it's an organization that you feel called to be involved in or called to be a part of, or if you feel like it will look great on your resume or you'll make connections and references and referrals in the future. But the truth is, there's enough scholarships out there that you shouldn't have to pay to apply to any of them if it comes down to it.
Fair point. Fair point. All right. So now let's talk about the scholarship essay. What is something that what are the typical topics that are asked for or the typical scholarship questions that are asked for?
Well, that's kind of hard because everyone is a little different. But I think that at the end of the day, they want to know who are you and why do you deserve the scholarship money? And that's the truth. And so they usually like to see you explain yourself, right? And so they want to see more than what you've already put in your application or your resume. They don't just want you to like reword your resume, but they want to find out who you are. And when you're applying for stuff, so much of it is quantitative. Your GPA, your ACT, your SAT score, how many hours do you have of community service? And that I feel like the essays are a great outlet that they can really see who you are and you can explain. And so I hear when students complain about the essay, I'll hear, my student, we have dyslexia, it's harder, we don't test well, or we don't, like there's a lot of excuses for things. And sometimes use that essay to explain your excuse. Like, what is your excuse that your junior year, maybe you failed half your classes? Like, was it a medical reason? Was it a family emergency? Like, sometimes it's a great way to use that part of the essay to kind of explain a situation that's happened and how you've overcome it.
And also like thinking outside the box, because you also have to think about it from the person reading the scholarships and their point of view. They're probably getting the same questions over and over, and it's if you come up with something that stands out, like, whoa, something that they won't expect to read, not like something like, oh, my family went on a trip, or so, I don't know, but something out of the box, out of the blue that they wouldn't expect. I think that would also help with the scholarship essay. What do you think of that?
Oh, absolutely. So you have to think you may spend an hour or more applying for college or filling out an application. And the truth is, I read a study lately where it said the average essay reviewer or admissions person spends less than 10 minutes on each application. So you have to think if they're looking at your essay and your first two sentences are the most boring thing they've ever read, chances are they're not going to finish reading that. They don't care what it says at the end. So you want to make sure that you are interesting enough in the very beginning that they want to finish reading about you. And I think that's one of the most important parts.
Yeah, yeah. So something just came to me. So there's this movie. I forgot what it was called, but the guy was applying to Harvard, of course, Harvard of all schools, and the admission counselor was like, "I hear the same, I hear the same thing all the time. You know, like the parents went to Harvard and they're super smart, and they're these great test scores. You know, they hear the same thing from all the students all the time. Tell me something unique. Tell me something interesting." And the guy told them an interesting story about how he used to count cards and he used to gamble, and um and I and he got like millions of dollars just by gambling in casinos and counting cards and cheating the casino system. And that just blew the admission guys away. Not that I'm, you know, promoting gambling in any way, but just to show that an example of, you know, the admissions counselors, hearing the same, um, they're hearing this, they're hearing the same thing all the time. And there's the typical smart student, you know, not that there's anything wrong with that, but if there's that little element that makes you stand out, you know, like just think about it like, whoa, what's something that someone hasn't heard? You know, that I think that is something that can put you over the edge a little bit. All right, just wanted to share that little tidbit there. Okay, so what are the things that people do wrong in terms of applying for scholarships?
Okay. The first is waiting until their senior year. A lot of the larger national scholarships actually have deadlines for junior year. So if you're like, "Oh, I can't even think about scholarships until I'm a senior yet." Well, then you've missed out on some of the best opportunities. And I know a lot of people think they have to wait until they've applied to certain colleges or been accepted into certain colleges, or they even think that they have to wait until they've chosen a major. And the truth is, you don't have to wait for any of those things. Um, you just have to get started. I think the hardest part is getting started. I like to say one of the hardest part of winning scholarships is finding them. So follow me, and you'll realize that out of not every scholarship you'll meet the requirements for. It's just truth that they put so many certain eligibility criteria in scholarships that you can't apply to all of them, but there will be plenty that you can apply to. And you just have to follow along and decide, do I want to spend 20 minutes a day? Do I want to spend 1 or 2 hours a week? Do I want to dedicate 1 week in a month to scholarships? And once you kind of set your sights on how bad do you want it, I like to say. And then another thing I like to say with scholarships is to start with your resume. And students who don't start with a resume are doing themselves a disservice, because the truth is, it can take, like I said, about an hour, hour and a half for some of these applications. But if you have a resume, you have all of the most important information at your fingertips. And from there, it's literal copy and paste into applications. You don't have to stop and think, what were those dates that I did kiddie soccer in ninth grade? And what was the name of that coach? And everything you have is literally Control C, Control V, copy paste away. And so start with a resume. Another scholarship, oh man, when it comes to essays, do not restate your prompt and do not thank your reader for reading your essay at the end of it. I feel like that just kind of eats up a lot of your words, and you really just want to like get to the point. That might be my best for tips. Don't pay for any scholarships. It's not necessary. You should never have to like pay a retainer to get your fees. Some schools will stack scholarships. So in my case, I attended a school that I received a full ride from. Some of my outside scholarships were still sent directly to the school. And at the end of each semester, the school would cut me a check for whatever monetary amount was in my account based on what all those scholarships sent, essentially paying me to go to college every semester. So I got paid to go to college. So there's nothing special about me. If I can do it, so can you. I just like to let students know that it's possible. If I can do it, so can you. Let me help you make that possible for yourself.
So I'm curious, what did you end up doing with that 900K? Did that all go to tuition, or did you pocket that money? What did you do with all that money?
Yeah, so the way that's broken down is, like I said, multiple schools offered me full tuition scholarships. So I kind of added all those up, like 100,000 plus, give or take, from each of those schools. A few schools there's partial tuition. So when you think about it, at the end of the day, I could only attend one school for undergrad. So much of that money went away, and I got the money that was for my full tuition paid for my 4 years of undergrad. In addition to that, I got some larger national scholarships, and some of those actually have bylaws that it cannot be paid to the student. So when they sent it to the school and the school had to read over all of it and say, oh, sorry, I had to send those back. But then there were others that held on to the funds for 4 years. So after I graduated, I went straight into a master's program, and it paid for some of those credit hours. In addition to that, so some of the smaller schools, it's like $1,000 a semester, or one-time $5,000 scholarships. So at the end that I graduated, I believe it was like $60,000 that I had in an account from tuition, sort of surplus scholarship money. And so it's not like I pocketed $900,000, but I did use that to start building a house and bought a car, which is an opportunity that I am blessed with because I didn't have to pay tuition or pay student loans back. So keep that in mind.
Okay. Okay. So the colleges themselves also offer scholarships, right? They also offer scholarships for students that are on the lower income side. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, so each school honestly is looking for something different. And there are some schools that will fill 100% of unmet need. So what that means is when you fill out the FAFSA and you get an EFC is expected family contribution. So for some families that can't afford college, truthfully, I feel like most families in America can't afford college, but that's another conversation for another day. But when you get that EFC, that number can range from $1 to a lot. So let's just say your EFC comes back and it's $1,000. We're going to use 1,000 just for like ease of numbers purposes. That tells the college your family can afford $1,000 in tuition each year. And so some schools will meet unmet need, and they'll say, regardless of whatever our tuition is, we only expect you to pay that $1,000 that the federal government says you can contribute, and we'll pay the rest. Well, in that case, it's not a true scholarship per se. So you usually can't stack other scholarships, but those types of schools exist, and that is your scholarship. They'll meet your unmet need. Whereas other schools, you hope for the best. I hate to say that. And so usually it's academic. There's schools that will tier their scholarship amounts just based on what your ACT score or SAT score is. And so sometimes you could be automatically admitted just based on what your score is. And then from there, for each point, it could be like an extra $1,000 as a freshman scholarship. I see that often. Sometimes there's like endowed scholarships where people have donated money into the school, into these trusts, and sometimes those are major specific or like program specific. So like sometimes it might be $10,000 this year to a student in their business program from an alumni in the business program from 20 years ago. I mean, each school, their scholarships are completely different, and it just really depends on the school and your situation.
Hmm. Oh, that's very informative. So in terms of you mentioned it briefly before about where the scholarships go. So in terms of when you get the money, sometimes it's sent to you and sometimes it's sent to the school directly, right?
The majority of time, the funds are sent directly to the school. Very few scholarships will send them to the student itself. I know some people are like on a hunt for scholarships that will be sent to them personally. And if so, I usually say instead of terming it scholarships, sometimes look into essay contest or oratorical contest or art contest instead. Sometimes those contests can be used as if it were scholarship money, but it's usually sent to the student instead of a college.
So then the scholarships that you can apply for in your junior year, how does that work in terms of when it's sent to the school? Do they hold it for a year?
Yes, a lot of them will hold it. Now, there are some that will send it to you, but most of them will hold on to those funds until you can relinquish proof that you have applied, been accepted, or are enrolled in an institution.
Ah. So now, does it also depend on how many credits that you signed up for in college? Like, do you have to be a full-time student, a part-time student, or it doesn't matter?
Yeah, that really goes depends on the scholarship. Usually, they do want to see that you are at least a full time student, so that would be at least 12 credit hours. But truthfully, now that I'm thinking, reading through so many eligibilities, very few scholarships that I've seen really dictate whether or not a student has to be considered full time. There are scholarships that require it, but that's not a stipulation that's put on very many scholarships.
Hmm. All right. All right. So, do you think the pandemic has affected the eligibility for scholarships? Do you think that what's happened in the past couple years, do you think that it's becoming easier? Do you think it's becoming harder? Do you think there's more access to money, less access to money? Can you talk about the effect of the pandemic on uh, scholarships in general?
Yeah, well, so I'll take scholarships out of it for a second and I'll just say colleges first. So the truth is, enrollment the cost of college is skyrocketing every year and enrollment numbers are up, so more and more people are applying for schools, and so their admissions numbers are going down. They're accepting less students because their application numbers are up, and that's due to the fact that now many schools are touting test optional or test blind, so students who typically would not have been considered for that school because their ACT or SAT score would not have qualified them for admissions are now applying anyway, and fingers crossed that they can be considered without those test scores. So that's something to think about. Things are definitely more cutthroat than they used to be pre-pandemic. But as far as the scholarship funds are going, I'm not sure. I find that people have more time on their hands to apply for scholarships, so more people are willing to do so. Um, yeah, I don't have statistics. I would love to do a study on the number of students applying and winning now versus pre-pandemic. That'd be an interesting study.
Ooh, that would be interesting. I'd want to know that as well. All right. So uh, there's so much more to say. I think we have a part two coming up. But let's start to wind things down now. So, do you have any words of wisdom that you would like to share with our audience?
Ooh, one of my favorite sayings, one thing that I find myself saying a lot is to love the school that loves you back. Sometimes people are hyper focused on one university in particular, and the truth is that they may not be the best fit for them. So love the school that loves you back. Cast a wide net when submitting applications. Big schools, small schools, public schools, private schools, some close to home, maybe a few not so close to home, and see what bites back. And at the end of the day, there is a school out there that was made for you and that you are meant to set foot on that campus. And it might not be the school where your heart is set on to attend. So do some school tours. Complete applications, submit them, contact admissions, but at the end of the day, love the school that loves you back. In the middle of so many, like we said, the admissions numbers, application numbers are up, tuition is rising, but there is a school out there that you're meant to go to. You just have to find it.
And there we go. All right, Kristen, thank you so much for joining me today. That was amazing advice. All right, so now it's promo time. All right, you guys. So you can find Christen Arafeh. She is all over that social media, you guys. You can find her she has a Facebook page and a Facebook group called Hive College Buzz. She's also on Instagram. You could send her an email. She's on TikTok. She is all over it, you guys. And she has a website. Her website is www.hivecollegebuzz.com. So, of course, all of this information will be in the description. And for those of you watching this on video right now, it is scrolling at the bottom of your screen. But in case you were not able to write all this down, all this information is available right in the description or on the screen right now. So definitely, but take advantage of it now while you have it. So her website again is www.hivecollegebuzz.com, and you can find her. She has a Facebook page, she has a Facebook group, she has an Instagram, a TikTok, and you can email her. So her information is in your face right now. It's either in your face or in that description. So whether you're watching this on video or you're listening to this on audio, her information is available in the description. So Christen, can you talk about your business a little bit?
Yeah, so I had started out just one-on-one mentoring local New Orleans families through college admissions and scholarships. From there, post-pandemic, I realized I was getting inundated with requests from outside of my geographical location. And so from there, Hive College Buzz was formed. And so I have a college prep workbook published. You can find that on Amazon. It is called College Prep Project, The Ultimate Guide for Navigating College Admissions. I also have a scholarship online 5-day online course that walks you through creating a resume, asking for letters of recommendation, getting copies of your transcript, writing quality essays for your scholarships, and finding your scholarships. You can find that on hivecollegebuzz.com. In addition, if you just want to have a conversation, a one-on-one, we can schedule. I have a small packages as little as 1 hour that you can get all of your college questions answered. I like to tell people, if you have questions about your health, you go to a doctor. If you have questions about your taxes, you hire an accountant or a CPA. If you have questions about college, you want to talk to someone who has answers, please let me know. I would love to assist your family.
Awesome. So I encourage you guys to take advantage of that, of her services, right? She one-on-one counseling that she provides. She also says that she helps looks for scholarships for you, right? So she'll look for scholarships for you. She'll give you a whole list, and she'll just give it to you right there. Now you won't apply for them, right?
I won't. I feel like that's like a moral versus, that I will help you find quality scholarships that you can apply for. I will even help overview your applications. But at the end of the day, I just feel like I can't submit applications and write essays on students' behalf.
Okay, so there you go. All right, so she will generate that list of scholarships for you. So take advantage of that. She will look over your scholarship application. She'll help you find a way to get your high school transcript. So all of that, she will help you with that, you guys. And yes, I want to reiterate, she has a book right now called College Prep Project, The Ultimate Guide to Navigating College Admissions. The ebook is $14.99, and you can get it from her website, hivecollegebuzz.com. I'll just say the link, hivecollegebuzz.com/courses/college-prep-project. So all of that, again, will be in the description, and it is also on the screen right now for our viewers. So she has she has a physical copy of the book, and she has an ebook. The ebook is on Amazon, right?
The ebook is actually on my website, and the printed workbook you can order delivered straight to your house, 2-day shipping, I believe, through Amazon.
All right, there you go. All right, so Christen, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. I will place you backstage now. And it is now you and me, guys. So let me get my banner. All right, there you go. And let me do this. All right. So now we have reached the conclusion of our episode. Thank you so much for joining us today. So wherever you are taking in the sound of my voice wherever you are feeling my aura right now, whatever platform that is, whether it is video or audio. Please check out our other episodes and don't forget to follow and subscribe. And while you're at it, let us know what you thought about this episode by leaving a comment in the comment section below, or in the comment thread, excuse me. And as a reminder, this podcast is a production of A Step Ahead Tutoring Services. So if you would like to learn more about us, if you are looking for a tutor for yourself or for your child, if you want to learn about our services, you can visit us online, www.astepaheadtutoringservices.com. And I want to let you know that if you mention that you heard about us from Hot Topics, we will give you 15% off 6 hours of tutoring. So I am going to repeat that again. When you reach out to us and you say, I heard about you from Hot Topics, we will give you 15% off 6 hours of tutoring. So take advantage of that discount, you guys. And I also encourage you to sign up for our email list and our texting list. You will receive exclusive offers, promotions, discounts, everything that is A Step Ahead Tutoring Services. So I encourage you to sign up for our email list and our texting list. That information is scrolling below at the bottom of your screen if you are watching this on video. And if you are listening to this on audio, that information is in the description. All right, I'm going to share this final message before we close.
Hey there, have you heard of us? We're a small team of tutors here at A Step Ahead Tutoring Services. We believe that education and information should be accessible to everyone, regardless of income, race, or creed. We're dedicated to making this happen, but we need your help. Please consider making a donation to our company. No amount is too small. Your donation will allow us tutors to remain employed, offer free and low-cost services, put on productions like this web series, and reach out to families nationwide. With your help, we can tackle the academic challenges of our students and the emotional, mental, and behavioral changes that result from these challenges. As a bonus, we can improve our communities in the process. Support us today. Send your donation by Cash App to $ASATS2013, by PayPal or Venmo to @ASATS2013, or by Zelle to success@astepaheadtutoringservices.com. For our Facebook Live viewers, you can also send us a star. Your support means a lot to us. Please note, we're a for-profit company. We're not a charity. Your donation may not be tax deductible. Please consult a tax professional.
All right, you guys, and that is it for today. Thank you so much for joining us. I look forward to seeing you at the next episode. Now, I am signing off. Bye.